Am I the asshole for telling my wife we can no longer afford to give our dog an allowance? We got a dog a few years ago and training him was rough. He was already a full-grown dog and had never lived inside. Anyway, we'd give him treats and encouragement and eventually he stopped being so wild inside and chewing things up and he now uses the bathroom outside etc. Like I said, we already give him treats for doing good things or listening to commands etc. But in the midst of the initial training, my wife came up with the idea that we should give him a weekly allowance for being good and not having accidents etc. This was set at $25 a week. Obviously we didn't give him the cash lol. Instead she'd take him to PetSmart and whatever he started sniffing or seemed to like she'd buy, or she'll get him special treats beyond what we already have at home. I thought it was silly then, but whatever, I was just happy when we'd go a week without piss on the carpet or a chewed up pillow. So I agreed. And it's been this way for years. But now money is tight. We can't really afford to $100 a month extra. Not only that but that money takes priority over our own allowances. For instance, I wanted to go out to eat last week, but because I have to set aside $50 every paycheck, my wife said we couldn't go otherwise we wouldn't be able to essentially pay our dog. Not to mention going outside to potty or not chewing things up is second nature for him now. And it's not like I don't want to buy him stuff, but we are barely making ends meet at the moment. $50 a check is a big expense. I brought this up with her last night and she got very upset that I would even suggest not rewarding him. That I was being selfish for wanting to spend the money on myself. I told her we already buy him food and treats, and he already has 30+ chew toys, and that he doesn't need a bigger bone every week, he doesn't need gourmet food all the time. None of this is even including relatively frequent dog spa visits. She told me I shouldn't have let her get the dog if I didn't want to take care of him. But I do take care of him. We go on walks, play in the backyard, he has a whole room in our house with chew toys and a big bed. I think it is unfair to say I'm not taking care of him because I can't afford to give him a luxurious lifestyle anymore, or that I'd like to go out to eat and have a little luxury myself every once in a while. But maybe I am wrong? Am I the asshole? Edit. Additional info I meant to mention. My wife cannot have kids due to a medical issue that would put her at high risk and was devastated when she found out, as was I. But we also cannot afford to adopt or even have that desire right now to be honest. Our dog I think was her way of coping with this and being a mother in some sense. So he is like her child. I love him too but she is attached to him in a way that is much deeper than what I would say is typical. Edit 2. She does not believe the allowance is teaching him anything. It is just her way of doting on him. She knows that he is not associating it with good behavior. So it is not an attempt at teaching him anything. More of, he's been good so we should do something good for him. Edit 3. Just going to answer a few more questions by copying my responses. Why doesn't she get a job? Certainly something we could look into, and not something she has said she is opposed to at all. We were completely fine before all of this inflation. But everything going up by a little to a lot has really strained us. It took quite a bit of time to even realize it was happening really because we'd had a little bit of a cushion and when you are slowly breaking even or dipping in $10.20 a check I just didn't realize how little wiggle room we actually had. Now I'm just looking at what expenses are the most frivolous and what I can cut out. So really it's been the last couple of weeks to a month that I've begun stressing about it. Dog allowance? I do think a lot of people in here are unfairly criticizing her because of the phrasing of dog's allowance. This is really her allowance to spend on our dog. I think maybe I've done a poor job communicating the finer details which wasn't my intention. Why doesn't she get out more or make friends? She does take him to the park and on walks. But also, she is very introverted. I have tried suggesting she hang out with her friends more but she rarely ever does. Plus most of her friends have kids now, and she doesn't admit it but I know it hurts her. A couple of them didn't even want kids and I think she just feels jealous or like it's unfair. Not that they have kids but that she can't. She was essentially forced to have an abortion because of a medical issue she didn't even know she had. I don't want to go much into it, but it really messed with her. The two most impactful memories I have is the light and joy in her eyes when she found out she was pregnant, and all that joy and light being sucked out when she realized she couldn't keep it. Not the asshole, how can this be real? The concept of giving a dog an allowance is absurd. Dogs have no concept of time or money. He will have no idea if he is going to PetSmart once a week or once every 3 months, or whether he's allowed to spend $10 or $25. Not the asshole. Based on your edit, your wife needs therapy. She is overcompensating for not having a child, by focusing on spoiling the dog. Bottom line. You can't afford anything extra right now. Maybe that will change in a few weeks, but you can't afford it. If she wants to continue to spend $100 per month on the dog, then she can sacrifice something else if it's really that important to her. You are not neglecting the dog, he sounds cared for and in a loving home. Edit. Thanks for the award. No idea how they work lol. I'm sorry, but if you can't afford dog care and $25 a week extra, you can't afford a child. Especially if she just twiddles her thumbs instead of getting a job, doing something about your financial situation. She shouldn't have to be told to get a job. If she knows your finances to the point of knowing that you can't afford a meal out, she knows enough to apply for a job. Not the asshole. Compromise as your friend. Soft-esh, because you and your wife need to have a tough conversation. Clearly, the trips to the pet store were for the humans and it sounds like she gets a lot of joy from those trips. They don't have to stop, but you'll probably need to adjust how much you're spending and/or how often you go. There are so many wonderful ways to spend time exploring the world with your fur baby that cost nothing, or near to. It's the time together that counts, not the stuff. Your dog would be the first to tell you that. A little tip from a dog trainer. Make groups of toys, making sure that each group has favorites. Rotate groups every few weeks. Dog never gets tired of toys, no need to keep buying. Am I the asshole for not paying my parents' debt? First time poster here. My siblings and I, all in our mid to late 20s, were all put in a private school for most of our lives because our parents wanted us to learn English. My older brother was kept in private school all of his life cause my parents didn't want him to get bullied for being different. Plot twist, teenagers suck. But me and my sister were taken out pretty early, around 2nd grade and 4th grade one think. Cause they couldn't afford to keep us all in private school. But they didn't tell us they couldn't afford it cause we were young lol, which made me feel like they just loved him more or something cause I was like 7 or something lol. They put me and my sister in different public schools like every couple years for some reason and to this day I don't know why. I had to try to make new friends and struggle every time. This doesn't really have much to do with this. Just the fact that we were put in private schools for way less time than my brother. I always promised myself that I'd help my parents pay their debts back if I ever made enough money, because if I never learned how to speak and write English, I would have struggled significant other much moving to America and would probably not have been able to meet the love of my life, cause they don't speak Spanish lol. But now I'm a trucker and team with my fiancé where we make like almost quadruple my parents' wages when combined with my fiancé. My fiancé and I want to save up as much money as possible to buy land and build a house because we're basically debt-free already and all we have is rent, insurance to pay. I told my parents about wanting to help them pay back their debt after finishing paying off my debt, and they were grateful at first, but lately they've been kinda nudging me to send them money, not even to pay off their debts, but to go on trips and stuff like that. And I've been a little hesitant to send them anything cause I recently found out that they charge like over $1,500 for people to live on their land. They're charging my sister's coworker $1,000 a month to live in an RV that they got for like $800. They also charge my brother's friend over $500 just to park his RV on their land. And they charge my single mother's sister rent too. That's already more than enough to pay their own mortgage. I forgot to mention that they used to charge me and my siblings like $200 in rent when we all got jobs since we were like 16. So I kinda stopped wanting to pay their debts off cause then it means me and my fiancé can get closer to our dreams even faster. But now my mom just sent me and my siblings an old bill of what she used to pay for me and my siblings' schooling, basically trying to guilt us to pay them back along with a long message generally saying, "Look at how much we sacrificed for you guys," and it's just been pretty annoying to deal with. They've just always been weird about money. Would I be the asshole if I didn't help my parents pay off their debts? I'm sure I missed some stuff, and sorry if I made any typing mistakes. Skeptical smiley face. Edit. I forgot to mention that I do technically owe her some money cause she had covered my car and other expenses a long time ago while I recovered from an awful situation back in 2018. But I was just gonna deduct that from the money I was gonna send her. But then she had messaged me, "Hey, we're going on a trip to Alaska. Could you maybe send us some of the money you owe us for those bills?" Which basically meant to me that she wants me to send her like $5,000 on top of what I was gonna send her originally. Skeptical smiley face. You guys are all saying basically the same thing my fiancé told me. I understand that I don't owe her for being born now, and for that, I thank you all. But I'm still nervous on how to approach this whole thing. I hate confrontation. My fiancé doesn't want me to send my parents any money, not even what I technically owe them because of how much they used to charge us for living there. Me and my brother moved out, but my sister moved back in with them while she gets her new career started, and the people living on their land. I can't think of any way to deal with them in a nice way without making them get mad at me. Hispanic parents. All I can think of is to just ignore them until they get the hint. Not the asshole. But tell your parents you made a mistake and you will not be in a position to do so for the foreseeable future. Look at how much we sacrificed for you guys, that's what parents do. I have 3 adult children myself and I couldn't imagine sending them a bill. Not the asshole. Set up clear boundaries. You have your own life to live. Your parents sound like they are fine but just can't afford additional luxuries. There is no need to give them additional fund, especially when they don't sound grateful at all. Not the asshole. First and most important of all, your parents chose to have you. And they chose to put you in private school, spent more money on you. That was their choice and is in no way your responsibility. Second, you told your parents you wanted to try to help pay off their debts. No promises or anything. And in no way a free pass that means you will pay for their trips etc. Your parents are trying to guilt money out of you. Make sure to keep your priorities straight. Also edit. I second what someone else mentioned about helping your sister get out of that insane renting situation first. Your parents chose to have you, and it was their responsibility and duty to take care of you and pay your way. You're not obligated to send them money. It depends on if you're willing to let your relationship with them go yet or not. Am I the asshole for refusing to apologize for damage to my sister's boyfriend's laptop? For context, I, 31 female, have a sister Melissa, 33 female, who has a boyfriend Sergey, 35 male. My sister lives in my parents' house and I occasionally visit them. Her boyfriend also stays over very frequently. Since I'm an infrequent visitor, I gave up my room at my parents' house to M to use as hers when she moved there along with the TV, furnishings, etc. She didn't have a room there already as she was in another country when the house was being set up and we never expected her to return except for holidays and such. As a result, whenever I visit, I hang out in M's room through the day, we watch TV, play games, etc. and at night I sleep on the couch or my parents' room if they're not in town. S sleeps with her at night. The room is big enough but there isn't a lot of walking space and we have a dog who jumps around frequently. Coming to the incident in question, S was over at a time I was visiting and he had placed his laptop in a bag standing very precariously on the edge of a chair in M's room. As I was walking round the chair, my billowing nightie created a bit of a breeze and it was enough to knock over his bag onto the floor. He rushed to his laptop and realized that one of the hinges was loose. It was a work laptop and he got upset and blamed me for the damage. But I refused to apologize due to how it was placed and told him that maybe he should have placed it in a secure location or a padded laptop bag as there was always a risk with our dog around. M sided with him and thought that I should apologize. Saying sorry would immediately, I assume, open the door to him asking me to compensate him for the damage and I don't think I should be liable for this. Seems petty as this happened a while ago but he's still upset till date. Has even walked out of the house because I touched his laptop to move it out of the way once and complains or throws jibes about me regularly to M and my parents about things but I'm wondering now if I was the Edit 1. Based on the responses so far I see why I would be the asshole in this situation. But to answer some of your queries. Initially I didn't even know the laptop was in the bag. After I walked by, the chair, which already had folded laundry on it and the bag placed on the outer edge, started to swivel and then the bag took a few seconds to drop by which point I was already out of the room. When I heard the huge thunk, I actually froze in my spot and asked him, "What was that? Was that your laptop? Is it okay? Is it covered under warranty? Can you get it fixed, etc." I kinda offered a non-apology, "I'm sorry it fell." But I did get defensive when he said that I dropped it and never accepted culpability for it because I didn't think I should pay for what I considered to be his carelessness at that time. It actually never came up again and initially he seemed fine with me till a while later when he stormed off and my sister told me he was still upset. Also, he tightened the hinge with a screwdriver a little later that day and it was fine after so it seemed like a non-issue to me all this time. But after the storming off, I realized that it was a much bigger deal to him than I realized which is why I started to wonder if I was the Edit 2. I had borrowed my mum's nightgown as I had packed light. The dog is a family dog. Edit 3. I had a long heart-to-heart with him. Apparently he doesn't think it's my fault but just an unfortunate accident. He said his reaction was knee-jerk and he stormed out later for unrelated stress, but my sister assumed it was because I was moving his laptop. I apologized for damaging it nonetheless and explained my defensiveness to him, and he said it was fine and that there was no real harm done and the jibes etc. were more for little annoyances that he considers routine in a family, but also apologized if it made me feel bad. I guess we're all good. Thanks everyone for your input as it helped me reflect, and I will definitely be more careful and cognizant of my behavior going forward. You are the asshole. Your nightgown created a breeze that knocked it off? Come on. You bumped into it, you broke it. Your dog shouldn't be jumping around either, so the excuse of the dog doesn't help. Not the asshole. Info. If it's a work laptop, does that mean it belongs to his work and they'll make repairs? You are the asshole. Intentional or not, your action caused the damage. You're a grown adult. Why do we need to explain common courtesy to you? Grow up and apologize. It's 2 damn words. I'm sorry, woman facepalming, woman facepalming, woman facepalming. Not the asshole. You can't leave something on the edge and blame the person who knocks it over. If the laptop was that important, he'd have taken better care of it. His workplace can replace it without skipping a beat. Don't apologize, he needs to learn. Am I the asshole for ruining my dad's chances of winning my mom back? My 25 female parents are getting divorced after 24 years of marriage. My mother was basically cheating on my father for months before he found out. I put cheating in quotation marks because my dad was a horrible husband. So I was actually happy she found someone else. Once my mom said she wanted to separate, my dad completely changed. He said he didn't want her to leave, begging her to stay, saying he will change. He actually got on medication for his depression, started being more affectionate, and asked for couples counseling that he said my mom agreed to do. One day I go to my parents' house and my dad says he wants my help winning my mom back. We are in the backyard and mom is in the house. I told him no because I want what's best for her and he's not it. He said that he has severe depression, and saying that he's bad without acknowledging how depression can affect a person isn't right. He said he was disappointed cuz if the genders were reversed I would admonish him for cheating and breaking the vow of marriage. Now this is where I might be the asshole. My dad is doing everything he can to win my mom back, so I said that while I won't help him, I wouldn't interfere in his plans and would stop talking about him with her. Me and my mom talk a lot about how shitty of a husband my dad is. At one point in the conversation he says, in a calm tone, I know you're not going to like this, but I'ma say it anyway. When one parent gives you gifts and takes you on trips and buys you things, of course you're going to side with them even if they're wrong because you don't want to lose that. This made me so angry. I have a genuine friendship with my mom, whereas even though my dad was a fantastic father, gave us everything we ever wanted, needed. I don't necessarily enjoy being around him. I hang out with him sometimes out of obligation, but it's very forced and I know he can tell and he's told me this hurts him in the past. I basically went off saying fuck you and how dare you and that he had no right to question my character, and the reason I like mom more is because he's no fun, unmedicated, he's rude and rigid, and it has absolutely nothing to do with money. I am screaming, but up until this point our convo was calm and we were almost whispering so my mom wouldn't hear. My dad keeps trying to shush me, but I don't let up. I go to my mom and tell her what he just said, and he keeps looking at me, saying, "Why are you doing this to me? I can't believe you're doing this to me, we were just having a calm conversation." I say I am leaving and my mom gets in the car with me. Later my dad says that after my blow up, my mom no longer wanted to go to couples therapy. Am I the asshole for blowing up and making it harder for my dad to win my mom back? Edit. I'm editing to add that the reason I am so involved is because both my parents talk about the other to me. My dad started first, and my mom only got involved when I asked her if she was abusing him in the way he was claiming. But they both are wrong for this. Other important info. My dad told me my whole life that he has bipolar disorder, and that's why he was so messed up. I've sent him books and podcasts and articles and lectures for years about this disorder. I made my entire family start therapy 2 years ago, and I said that my only request for dad is that he get medicated because he knows he has bipolar disorder. He laughed and said, "I was waiting for you to say that. I'm not even bipolar." The therapist then got a little curt with me and said I shouldn't armchair diagnose just because I was a psych major. My dad just nodded along. This is just one of his serious manipulations, but he does it to me often and that's why our relationship is fractured. You are the asshole for one part in particular. The part that tipped me towards you being the asshole is when you wrote about you and your mother talking about what a bad husband he is. You already inserted yourself into their marriage troubles before all this and already picked a side. You're definitely the asshole here. Esh. Is anyone in your family a decent human being? Yikes. Esh. Your mum for cheating, your dad for being a bad husband, and you for not being able to have a civil conversation for 5 minutes even though you started off whispering and you knew this was something your mum wasn't supposed to hear. You have every right to be mad, but the way you handled it escalated an already chaotic situation to the point on no return. Not to be a dick, but you all sound terrible and deserve each other lol. Info. Has your father been unfaithful? Has your father been abusive, not cranky and rude, but actually abusive? Is your mom continuing to cheat on your father while he does the pick me dance?